That's where I'm standing right now. You can see it around me. We've got partly cloudy conditions, and as the day progresses, we've got that chance for some storms. Thunderstorms are in the forecast for tonight, so keep that in mind planning your day there in Omaha and across this region. We've got some rain right now falling across the Dakotas over into Minnesota. That's going to fill in as that front moves through. Here's the thing, though. You've had so much dry air in place that even though some of this light rain is showing up on the radar, it might not be making it all the way to the ground. You guys are dealing with some really low relative humidities there, some very dry air that it's going to take a little bit for the precipitation to overcome that dry air. Now, got a better chance for some storms and maybe a little bit heavier rain later on this evening into tonight through portions of Iowa, down through northern Missouri, stretching that over into eastern portions of Kansas and Nebraska. Maybe some damaging winds, maybe some large hail. You could see some pretty large hail out of this, actually. This front is going to interact with warm, humid air that's well above average as it swings through. That's bringing us that storm chance. And then it's going to cool down just a bit behind that front. It's actually going to bring us to average or just below average in some places. You can see the rain filling in for places like Marquette and Green Bay as we head to the overnight hours, waking up early to some rain Friday morning in Chicago. Detroit, just a few sprinkles there for you. Sadly, I know around much of this region, portions of the Ohio Valley, the Appalachians, you wish you could have a little bit of rain there. It's been so dry. The drought conditions are getting worse, and we're not getting much rain out of this. It's just kind of the same story for a lot of us. We cannot buy that big drought-busting rain. In NYC, you're going from the upper 60s today, lower 60s on Friday. Little bit above average the next couple days. That front's going to move through, and you're going to notice a big cool down for your Sunday into your Monday. That's going to take you just a few degrees below average, but it's probably going to feel like a bigger swing because you've been warmer over the past few days. Up and down in Buffalo. You should be in the mid-50s, and we're right around that. We're not too far from average in Buffalo, Mike, but, you know, I think everyone's been kind of waiting for that big cool down that just hasn't come here yet.
No, it really hasn't, right? Now,
heartbreak caused by Helene is still very raw for these North Carolina mountain communities. Our Charles Peak spoke with Danny Ayers of Green Mountain, who lost his son and daughter-in-law to the historic flooding. Now, Ayers is now focused on raising his granddaughter with the love and support of family and his community. Just so sad, right? Even as, you know, we are seeing the steps being taken forward toward recovery. I'm not even sure we could say toward normalcy, because it will never be normal or the same again for a lot of these areas, for a lot of these people. The least that we can ask for is nice weather for the cleanup efforts, for the recovery efforts, and that is what we have been getting and what we will continue to get into this weekend. We're remaining dry, those temperatures remaining comfortable. You'll notice a bit of a dip in the temperature Saturday into Sunday, a little bit more cloud cover as front swings through. Just going to cool you off, not significantly to make it uncomfortably cold, but it is going to bring in some cooler air for those overnights and during your afternoons. To Greenville, South Carolina, you've got the sun shining today, tomorrow into Saturday. Again, a bit more cloud cover on Sunday. Could be getting a little warm for some of those cleanup efforts, recovery efforts on Saturday, but that front will knock us back down into the 60s, and it's a bit more comfortable to round out the weekend and head into early next week. To Tampa, that Tampa area where cleanup is still ongoing, a bit warmer. You're in the mid-80s, a little bit more humidity building in, but it is not, you know, a deluge of rain. Of course, the last thing we want is even more rain in the forecast when you're trying to clean up that debris, trying to get out there and get things, you know, all the way cleaned up, back to normal. Maybe you're cleaning out your homes. The last thing that you want is rain to be dealing with, and that's why we like to see this forecast. Not a ton of rain in the forecast at all in Sarasota either. Temperatures overnight are mild, a little bit warm during the afternoon, but not scorching. Daytona, you could have some showers and storms there heading toward Monday and Tuesday, but we've got several dry days ahead, Mike, and that is all we can ask for right now with all that cleanup still ongoing.
Absolutely.
Helene dealt a major blow to infrastructure across the Southeast, and a critical factor of the recovery process is building back better.
But constructing buildings and homes that can fortify communities against extreme weather isn't as easy as it may sound. And joining us now is research scientist Kate Morano here from Georgia Tech University. Kate, thanks so much for being with us. Again, on paper, it seems like, okay, let's build back. Let's just build back stronger. Why is it more difficult than that? It seems simple.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy.
You want to build back better, but in some cases there were just, you know, the land is gone where homes were built on, the sides of the mountain are gone. Is there anything we could have done to withstand that? Is there any type of building that could even withstand that type of damage?
There are a lot of things.
The stadium effect there, that kind of black that you see right in the middle there.
Yeah.
It's Pacific Ocean. You're looking literally right down at the ocean. Oh, by the way, look at the thunderstorms that have formed right in there. See those little pock marks there?
The striations, you can tell the storm is just breathing. It's just a monster of a storm. And it reflects that. 150-mile-per-hour winds. Now, it went through an eye wall replacement cycle, so that kind of takes that intensity up and down a little bit. But a Cat 4 is nothing to sneeze at. That's a strong Cat 4.
Yeah, you're mentioning all the ventilation. Look at the striations on the edges of that. The thing is just like breathing, like a house fire that's got good ventilation. It just keeps blowing up. That's exactly what this is doing right now. Take a look at the track, though, coming westbound, then going northbound here, and eventually becoming a weaker storm by the weekend. The good news is there's literally nothing out here to hit.
Yeah, that's the good news. It's going to be encountering some not favorable conditions, sheer cooler water temps. But when you have a monster storm like this, still going to be sending some big swells there to the Baja Peninsula. So keep that in mind if you plan on traveling there.
All right, so you know the names: Sandy, Michael, Wilma, some of the most destructive hurricanes that hit the U.S. in the month of October.
Meteorologist Jordan Steele takes a closer look at these devastating late-season storms.
A million Americans, cool fall weather has slipped right through your fingers. A lot of record-setting numbers on the map today.
It's like you're trying to grab that sand and it's just slipping through. That's exactly what it is. You'll get a little cool down, but for Wichita, Kansas, today you're forecast to reach 92 degrees. You're smashing the old record set back in 1939. Now, the old record was 89. Typically, when you're smashing like an old record or breaking an old record, you might tie it. Maybe it's by a degree. To break it by 3 degrees is a lot.
Yes, I was mentioning to Mike yesterday that you don't need sweaters because we are the sweaters. We are feeling like summertime during the day. I mean, it cools off a lot more at night this time of year than it does in the summertime, but the daytime is a bit much for this time of year.
I call it glistening.
Yes.
Not
That is
sweating,
a very
Dr.
positive outlook on that. Yes.
We don't want to be anywhere near Dr. Nab, when he's glistening, right? So we're going to talk a lot more about the bone dry conditions that we have, the heat that's on for many of you, unfortunately, but there are consequences to this, what we saw second summer in essence.
Oh, absolutely. And, the lack of rain is eventually going to cause additional problems. We better get some beneficial rains in places that haven't had much for a while. I know we've needed the break in the Appalachians, but in general, drought is becoming a bigger problem.
Yeah, and it's causing some issues like this. Take a look at this. This is from of humidity before that front actually gets here. Now let's take you virtually to Omaha. That's where I'm standing. Conditions are partly cloudy, but as the day progresses, we're going to have these clouds building up and the chance for robust thunderstorms. That's in the forecast for tonight. So have some way to get those alerts, and do keep that in mind as you're planning out the rest of your Thursday. Now we're watching that front. You can kind of see the atmosphere stirred up as that front is moving its way eastward, southeastward, bringing us a bit of rain. But I will tell you, across Minnesota, across much of this region, you've had very dry air in place. So it's taking a little bit to get that rain to actually get down to the surface. So we really want some rain, actually. It's been very dry, but you just don't want the storms coming along with it. Long portions of that 80 corridor down to 70. Places like Des Moines, Kansas City, Emporia, you have that risk for some large hail, some damaging wind gusts as well as this front is going to move through. It's going to interact with our warm, slightly humid air in some places. Now, eventually, as that front moves through, we get done with the storms, we are going to have a bit of a cool down. For a lot of us, it's just going to actually take us to where we should be. It's going to take us to around average. Some of us, a little bit below average. You're just not going to, get some bitter cold from this. It's just knocking us down enough to feel a bit more fall-like. The rain continuing to build eastward, places like Green Bay, Chicago, dealing with that overnight tonight into early Friday. St. Louis, a few showers for you, but you'll notice this is not a huge rainmaker. A lot of this area is just hoping for a bit of rain at this point, or more than a bit of rain, to get that drought to kind of take the edge off of it a little bit. But this is not going to be drought-busting rain in any way. But what it will do is give you a little bit of a split weekend. So in NYC, we should be in the lower 60s, upper 60s today, low to mid 60s Friday, Saturday. That front will move through, and that's going to knock us into the upper 50s on Sunday. You're going to notice a bit of a difference. So while that's not, crazy below average, it's at least not above average. You will notice the difference for the second half of your weekend there in NYC to Buffalo. I mean, look at this, kind of up and down, about a 5-degree spread. So you may not notice a huge difference here, but I'd say that maybe the biggest difference you'll notice is slightly drier, crisper air building in, and that's the last thing we need with the dry air we already have in place, Mike.
All right, Felicia, thank you very much.
Steps back toward some sense of normalcy can make all the difference in, lifting spirits, making people feel better. And then, like one of the students mentioned, when you're coming back into that area, you can also volunteer, you can help out as well. And there's still a lot of that to be done. Love to see everyone getting out there and helping. And I love to see this weather cooperating so well. It's been, dry really for quite some time at this point. That is so helpful with your cleanup efforts here in Asheville. The temperatures are going to be a bit cooler for the second half of the weekend as a front moves through, going from the 70s to the 60s. Still very, very comfortable. Absolutely, no issues with this weather at all. Greenville, South Carolina, same thing. I will say Saturday might be a little on the warm side. Lots of sunshine in the mid 80s. So if you're out there doing some cleanup, just make sure you're taking breaks, getting some breaks out of the sun, wearing your sunscreen and staying hydrated. It will cool down though. By Sunday, we're in the 60s and those cooler temperatures stick around into Monday and Tuesday. Let's go south into Tampa, where, around southwest Florida, we also dealt with both the impacts of Helene and into Milton as well. So Tampa, you're going to be doing that cleanup in the mid 80s. This isn't crazy weather for Florida. You guys are used to these type of temperatures, but it is one of those things where you're doing that strenuous work. You want to make sure that you are staying in tune, staying in check with your body. If you're, moving large debris or anything like that, that can put some strain on you. So just pay attention to how you're feeling, especially with all the stress that I know a lot of people are feeling with the multiple hurricanes we dealt with. Sarasota, same thing, mid 80s for you. But the good news is not a lot of rain in any of these forecasts, Mike.
Felicia, 360, right? And there's the current view on the satellite. Same thing. You can even see some banding of thunderstorms on the edges of the eye here. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible when you see this kind of within the storm as well. Sometimes I think you start to see those thunderstorms and some of the rain bands as they're lifting through. But when it's kind of wrapping around the storm like that, it has so much energy to work with.
There's a look at it. Again, well-formed eye on the infrared. Winds 150 miles an hour. So I'm sure you know these names. Sandy, Michael, Wilma, some of the most destructive hurricanes that have struck in the month of October.
Yeah, and of course now we are talking about what we're watching in the East Pac, what we could be watching for the Atlantic Basin. Meteorologist Jordan Steele takes a closer look at these devastating late season storms.
75 million Americans have fall within reach, but it's always out of reach. It's never quite there.
You're like, your fingertips are just scraping it.
No, it's summer. It's summer in way too many places. Look at that map, record-setting temperatures across multiple states.
All those little red dots, that's exactly what it is. One of those red dots happens to be Wichita, Kansas. Now, you're forecasted to reach 92 degrees. That would just smash the old record of 89 set back in 1939. So you're not just kind of tying it, or, you're not just kind of warm. You're like blasting past it.
That's not just a bit much for late October. That's a bit much really for any time of year. However, anybody who's got relatively dry, sunny weather and a high of about 81, 82, Felicia, you and I know, that is like a beautiful winter day in Miami.
Why you guys both look at me like you're ganging up on me?
I am not. I have to say, it has not rained in Atlanta all month. I know we need the rain.
But
I'm
sunny,
not unhappy.
Yeah, sunny, dry, and 81 is about as good as it gets in my world.
Yeah, me too.
All right, we're going to talk a lot more about those temperatures coming up. But welcome in, everyone. This is Weather Unfiltered. Dr. Rick Knapp, Felicia Combs. I'm Mike Bettis. We'll also talk a little bit more about the tropics as well, how things could be turning for the Atlantic Basin. Yeah,
that scary Hurricane Christy that is fortunately staying away from land in the East Pacific. Those conditions that support that could be moving into the Caribbean over the next couple of weeks, even into November. Our season is not over.
We know that all too well, and we've seen that. We're joking about the dry, sunny conditions. We love it, but too much of a got a little bit of cloud cover hanging out. Now let's virtually take you to Omaha. That's where I'm standing, and conditions are partly cloudy. Now, as the day progresses, these clouds will build. Chances for robust thunderstorms are in the forecast tonight. Some of those could reach severe limits. That is certainly one of the risks that we're seeing as this cold front is going to interact with those above average temperatures that you're having around this region. You see it here. You can kind of see that showing up with the cloud cover and the rain. Now, a lot of this rain is not actually reaching the ground because you've had such dry air in place, especially across portions of Minnesota. That could eventually fill in, though. Where we're expecting that risk for severe storms, though, across portions of Iowa, down through northern Missouri, over into extreme eastern portions of Nebraska, Kansas, Kirksville, St. Joseph. Looking at you, Davenport as well. You've got gusty winds, you've got hail. All of that going to come together to bring you that risk for storms. Here it is. Here's our front sweeping through, moving through those highs that are well above the average that you've got in place, those dew points that are a bit elevated as well. It's going to swing through, cool us down, not for long. That's the thing. The front is going to bring us some storms. It's going to bring us some slightly cooler air, but it's not sticking around. Those temperatures are warming right back up pretty quickly behind that front. So here's what we're looking at. Getting off work, Minneapolis, you've got some rain around, maybe a few rumbles of thunder. Chicago, Green Bay, you're waking up late tonight or early Friday morning to some of that thunder, some of that rain moving through. St. Louis, you've got some light rain, but you'll notice this is not a big rain-making system. I know a lot of us through portions of the Ohio Valley just really wish we could get some rain, Middle Tennessee, and this is not going to be a big rain maker. That is part of the problem, just getting some paltry amounts of rain really as we head through tomorrow and into the weekend. Meanwhile, in NYC today and tomorrow, you're looking at above average temperatures. Now, I will say you should be in the lower 60s this time of year, so 64, 65 is not that far off from where you should be, but it's going to feel like you're taking a bit of a dip in the temperature department because the upper 50s on Sunday, even though that's not that far from where you should be this time of year, it's pretty cooler than you were just the day before. So, Mike, sometimes that flip-flop makes all the difference because you're really feeling going from above average to below average.
Definitely, you definitely can feel it.
Such, one of the many heartbreaking stories that are coming out of Western North Carolina. But, every little step back toward normalcy or back toward, a sense of normalcy at least is so important. And Asheville City Schools, the schools there are getting back to a modified schedule at least on Monday. So the weather will be really nice for that leading up to that as well. The weather has been very cooperative since, the terrible catastrophe of all of that rain. It's been very dry for all the cleanup efforts. I want to remind you, as the kids are heading back to school there in Asheville, you want to remember to treat those stoplights as four-way stops. The kids are going to be on the buses, maybe walking to those bus stops. Four-way stops at those stoplights. Some of the traffic lights are still out there. Greenville, South Carolina, your temperatures will continue to warm a bit into the mid-80s by Saturday. You're going to have a bit of a front moving through, cools us down a little bit for Sunday. Mid-60s is where we'll be. That's going to be a bit more comfortable, maybe a little chilly in the morning, but your afternoons are going to be pleasant, and we're not expecting a lot of rain out of that. To Tampa, where you have a mostly dry forecast as well, mid-80s, a little on the warm side for those cleanup efforts, but not terrible, especially by Tampa standards, and staying mostly dry, Mike, which we will take.
Yeah, we definitely will. All right,
forecast anywhere watching us today, hopefully.
I'm trying to think, now that you say that, I'm trying to think back, when was the last time that we actually had a tornado in the U.S.? Like, I don't even remember at this point.
I think it would have to be with Milton, right?
Milton was it, right?
Yeah.
But not like there's traditional places that you think about getting tornadoes, it hasn't happened.
No, I mean, this severe weather, this second severe season so far has not been,
nothing.
It's not been kicking off very much, Well, welcome. Right, exactly. Welcome back to Weather Unfiltered. Part of the reason is because we've been stuck in the same weather pattern.
It's 360, right? And there's the current view on the satellite. Same thing. You can even see some banding of thunderstorms on the edges of the eye here. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible when you see this kind of within the storm as well. Sometimes I think you start to see those thunderstorms and some of the rain bands as they're lifting through. But when it's kind of wrapping around the storm like that, it has so much energy to work with.
There's a look at it. Again, well-formed eye on the infrared. Winds 150 miles an hour. So I'm sure you know these names. Sandy, Michael, Wilma, some of the most destructive hurricanes that have struck in the month of October.
Yeah, and of course now we are talking about what we're watching in the East Pac, what we could be watching for the Atlantic Basin. Meteorologist Jordan Steele takes a closer look at these devastating late-season storms.
Americans, that fall weather that you're dying for is nowhere in sight.
No, it's not.
What gives?
I mean, what month is it, basically, I think is what a lot of people are thinking. Okay, so one of those places is Wichita, Kansas. Forecast to reach 92 degrees today. Should be getting there right around now or soon, right? That's going to smash that old record of 89 set back in 1939. 92 late October.
Away from the Gulf Coast states or away from Florida, that's insane. That's too hot for this time of year. I mean, we've had some decent nights and mornings, but too many of us have been too hot during the day. So you've got no use for the sweaters in
No.
the afternoons at all.
You know what I was thinking about? You got to choose your Halloween candy really appropriately, especially if you like just set it out in a bowl, because you're just going to be giving like mush of chocolate if it's melty.
You have to put it on ice.
Yeah.
You
Put it
put it
in
on
a
dry
cooler.
ice, and then it'll be a spooky.
There you go.
Spooky scene, but it'll keep your
Fixed it.
chocolate like solid at least.
There is some hope that we'll get a front just in time for Halloween next week, but I think for the next week or so, we're going to have many days that are way too warm for this time of year.
Just warm. And you know, great sunny, warm days, it's nice, but too many of those start to cause issues like this. So fire